Deja vu is generally defined as a feeling of having experienced the current situation before, despite realizing that this is actually new.
There's something uncanny about déjà vu, that sudden flicker of recognition when you enter a place you're sure you've never been, or when a conversation unfolds like lines in a play you didn't know you knew. Some say it's a glitch in the system, others call it fate. But what if it's something even stranger? What if, before you were born, before you ever took your first breath, this moment, right now, had already begun? An endless cycle of rebirth. There are ancient traditions that suggest life is not a straight line, but a loop. The past, the present, and the future do not follow one another like stepping stones, but instead fold into themselves, repeating in patterns that most fail to notice. The Hindus speak of the concept of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, where the soul does not simply move forward, but spirals through time, revisiting the lessons it failed to learn. It's a whisper from somewhere beyond time, a reminder that the moment unfolding in front of you has already been seen, already been lived. The Greeks had their own vision of this, one far more haunting. The Orphic mysteries spoke of the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Every soul, before being born into the world again, was made to drink from its waters. The memories of past lives, past choices, past mistakes, wiped away. But some, the initiates of the mystery schools, were said to refuse the drink. They remembered. And here is the real question. What if you did too? Not all memories fade so easily. Some linger at the edges of dreams, woven into the fabric of intuition. The feeling that you are meant to do something, though you cannot explain why. The faces of strangers that stir something deep within you, a pull that makes no sense in this lifetime, but speaks of a bond that predates it. It is no coincidence that ancient texts, from the Tibetan Bardo Thodol to Plato's myth of air, all speak of a realm beyond death, where souls make choices before returning to the physical world. The choices are not random, they are precise. A life is shaped before it is lived. But what does that mean for you? It means that before you opened your eyes in this lifetime, you already knew what was coming. The struggles, the joys, the people who would shatter you, and the ones who would put you back together again. You knew the wounds you would carry and the lessons they would carve into your soul. You knew which doors would open, which ones you would have to kick down, and which ones you would be too afraid to touch. The problem is, you forgot. And that is where things get dangerous. Forgetting is part of the design. If you remembered too much, the weight of your past memories, plus your new ones, would crush you. But forgetting also leaves you vulnerable to fear, to confusion, to the illusion that you are lost. And that is why synchronicities appear, why strange patterns unfold in your life, and why there are moments that make no logical sense but feel undeniably real. Because you are not lost, you are being reminded. The question is, will you pay attention? Wake up from the dream. Some do. They wake up mid-dream, recognizing that their life is not random but written, that they are not wandering through chaos but following a map laid out long before their birth. They start to see the golden thread running through their experiences, connecting them to something vast, something ancient. But most people have forgotten the map. They've traded it for routine, for screens, for a life that moves so fast they can barely breathe, let alone listen. But silence is where the answers live. The messages don't shout, they whisper. In numbers that repeat, in songs you hear at just the right moment, in the strange timing of a phone call, in the dream you barely remember, but can't stop thinking about. In the Kabbalistic tradition, they say that before a soul is born, it is taught all the secrets of the universe by an angel. But just before it descends into the body, the angel touches the baby's upper lip, and all of it is forgotten. That's the reason, they say, for the cleft above the lip, a scar from where truth was sealed inside you. But forgotten does not mean lost. Truth always leaves trails behind. Synchronicities are those trails. They don't force you. They don't tell you what to believe. But they hint, and they pull, and they ask a quiet question. Do you remember now? Before you were born, you chose certain people. You chose certain places. You chose a story. Not a story that traps you, but one that you would one day learn how to rewrite. And when you come across a moment that feels impossible to explain, a moment so aligned it sends chills through your whole body, pause, look around, breathe. You're not imagining it. You're right where you're supposed to be. You've been here before. Not because this is a loop, but because your soul left breadcrumbs, and now you're finding your way back. Your character is a story. John Wheeler once said it clearly: what you think you are, the limited, striving, suffering character you imagine yourself to be, is just a concept. It's a story, a creation made from stitched-together memories and future projections. Like a role you've been playing for so long you've forgotten you were the actor all along. But the truth of what you are isn't found in the script. It's found in the silence between the lines. You are not the thoughts. You are not the emotions that crash over you like waves. You are not even the mind that tries to make sense of it all. You are the one who sees them, the one who holds space for them to arise and dissolve. It's in that subtle moment of non-identification that something extraordinary is revealed. The calm underneath, the one who is watching, aware, undisturbed. Imagine a room. Furniture may be brought in, tables, lamps, paintings, and people. Then they're taken away, rearranged, replaced. But the space of the room remains unchanged, open, untouched, always there. You are not the furniture. You are the space. This realization is not an idea to collect. It's an experience to fall into. The moment you begin to see through the illusion of a fixed self, this me with a history, a future, a set of roles and identities, you start to taste freedom. You stop needing to defend who you are. You stop needing to prove anything, because what you are can't be harmed, and it can't be improved. It simply is. Boundless, limitless. The illusion of self isn't an enemy to be defeated. It's just a habit of thinking, a misunderstanding. Like mist that vanishes in the morning light, it dissolves the moment you see it for what it is. And when it goes, the world appears as it really is, wide open. You are not the wave, crashing and changing. You are the ocean, deep, still, eternal. And this awareness is just the beginning. Let's go deeper. Ask yourself right now the most powerful question you can. Who am I really? You might be tempted to answer with a name, a role, a collection of events. You might say, I'm a mother, I'm a writer, I'm someone who has been through pain, or I'm someone trying to find peace. But go even further. Strip away every label, every story, every memory. Let them fall away, just for a moment. What's left? Start with your thoughts. Watch them as if from a distance. One moment you're thinking about what you want for dinner. The next, you're replaying something someone said years ago. Then, without warning, you're imagining a conversation that hasn't happened yet. They come, they go, just like clouds. But have you noticed? No matter how wild the sky becomes, the sky itself never changes. You are that sky. Even emotions, as overwhelming as they feel, rise and fall like tides. Joy, sadness, anger, peace, they pass through. But the one who witnesses them remains. There is a reason why many Eastern traditions, especially Advaita Vedanta and certain Buddhist schools, point again and again to this fact, because everything else is unstable. But this is what remains when all else is stripped away. There is a parable that speaks to this. A man is walking through a forest and finds a beautiful mirror. He picks it up and sees his face clearly. He smiles, then frowns, then laughs, and watches as the mirror reflects each expression. But then a thought arises. What if I am the face in the mirror and not the one looking? He becomes obsessed with the reflection, adjusting it, fixing it, judging it. He forgets that he is the one holding the mirror. This is the human condition. We confuse the reflection, the body, the roles, the thoughts, for who we are. But all along, we are the ones holding the mirror, watching, witnessing. And when you begin to feel this truth, not as a thought, but as a deep remembering, your life starts to shift. Synchronicities increase, not because you are more special, but because you are more open. You're not clogging the field with noise. You've stepped into the stillness where guidance speaks. You begin to see that life isn't just happening to you. It's unfolding through you. This moment, the one you're in right now, has been waiting for you. The moment when the mirror cracks, not in destruction, but in revelation. When the stories fall away, and you remember. You were never just this person caught in a web of struggle and identity. You were always the vast, quiet field where all things arise. To better understand this, imagine a lamp sitting in a room. Practice effortless patience. It doesn't need to shine on itself to prove it exists. It doesn't twist or contort to see itself. It simply glows. The light is effortless and constant, illuminating everything within reach. In the same way, your awareness doesn't need to do anything to confirm its presence. It doesn't need to search for itself. It already is, always. John Wheeler called this effortless presence your true nature, what you've always been beneath the stories, the emotions, the thoughts, and even the body itself. This information is not something that arrives with effort or leaves in your sleep. It doesn't depend on your success, your pain, or how many steps you've taken on your so-called spiritual path. It's not waiting for you at the finish line of enlightenment. It's what's noticing the race. But what does this mean, really? How does this change your life? It means the thing you've been searching for, the peace, the homecoming, the awakening, isn't in some distant future. It's not hiding in a retreat center, a sacred book, or the words of a teacher. The truth is closer than close. The awareness that watches your breath rise and fall, the one silently witnessing your entire life from behind your eyes, that's it. Let's make this real. Take a breath right now. Don't force it, don't manipulate it. Just observe the inhale, the exhale. Feel the air, cool or warm, touching the edges of your nostrils. Now, gently shift your focus, not to the breath, but to the knowing of the breath. The space in which the breath is being noticed. That stillness, that presence, that quiet, vast openness, that's you. And it's not doing anything. It's not trying to improve. It's not analyzing or controlling. It just is. Calm, open, unmoved. This witnessing presence doesn't change, no matter what your mind is doing. It was there when you were 5. It's here now. And it'll be here long after today's thoughts and moods have passed like shadows at dusk. You begin to understand something radically freeing. You are not a person having moments of awareness. You are aware, experiencing this temporary role of being a person. And when this is seen clearly, not just intellectually, but viscerally in the bones, everything changes. The seeking ends, the questions soften, and the mind loosens its grip. You stop chasing something you've always been. So, take a deep breath and rest, not just in your body, but in that boundless presence that's watching everything unfold. Let the thoughts come. Let them go. Let the emotions rise and fall. Don't resist. Don't cling. Let the waves play across the surface, but know that underneath, you are the still, infinite ocean, always. This is the center of who you are. The part that was never touched by trauma, never broken, never missing, never needing to be fixed. And once you glimpse this, you can't unsee it. You can forget it for a while, you can cover it up with noise, but it will call you back again and again, in silence, in dreams, in synchronicities, and in heartbreak. The truth of your being is patient, because it knows it is you. So now we come to something strange and beautiful. What does it really mean to say, you were never born? At first, it feels ridiculous. You remember your childhood. You have photos from when you were little, a birthday, a certificate, a family history. And yet, if you sit quietly and look closely, something deeper begins to reveal itself. What if the you that was born is not the real you? What if the birth was the beginning of a role, a character in a play, not the actor? This idea isn't new. In Zen, they say, "Show me the face you had before your parents were born." In Taoism, the sage is described as one who has returned to the unborn state. In Advaita Vedanta, your true self, Atman, is described as never born, never dying. To say you are unborn isn't to deny the physical body. It's to remember that you are not confined to it. You are not limited to this moment in time. You are not the story that began one day and will end another. The idea of being born implies you began at some point, that you entered life, but this only makes sense if you believe you were separate from it to begin with. The unborn truth of you is not separate from life. It is life. The awareness you are was here before the body. It will remain when the body dissolves. What keeps this hidden is the belief that your story defines you, that your name, your traumas, your dreams, your past, and your future are who you are. But these are just movements inside of you. You are the screen on which the story is playing. Think about it. As a child, your body was tiny. Your thoughts were simple. Your view of the world was narrow. Now, your body has changed. Your ideas, your beliefs, and your preferences have evolved. And yet, the one experiencing all of it, that quiet, watching presence, has never changed. The same one who saw the crayons is the one seeing the job application. The same one who cried as a child feels heartbreak now. But you, the witness, have always been. This is the meaning of being unborn. To live as the timeless presence behind the passing show. Not denying the world, but seeing it clearly, lovingly, as a play of light and shadow within your unchanging being. And when you live from this knowing, even for a moment, something mysterious begins to happen. Life begins to meet you differently. The veil thins, the symbols return, synchronicities increase. Because you're no longer looking at the world through the eyes of a seeker, you're seeing it through the eyes of what you already are. And what you already are has no beginning and no end. Before the role, there is the self. The Indian mystic Ramana Maharshi once sat quietly at the foot of a sacred mountain called Arunachala. He said very little. Often he just looked at people with calm eyes or sat silently for hours. But those who came to him said something changed inside them. They felt peace without words. They felt seen, not as their personalities, not as their problems, but as something deeper. Ramana didn't go to school for spiritual things. He didn't study to become enlightened. One day, as a teenager, he was suddenly gripped by a fear of death. But instead of running from it, he let it in completely. He lay on the ground and imagined dying. He asked, "What dies? What is it that disappears when the body is gone?" And at that moment, something strange happened. The fear vanished, and what was left wasn't emptiness. It was clarity, peace, presence. After that day, he stopped thinking of himself as just a boy with a name. He knew, without any doubt, that what he truly was had never been born and could never die. He said that before the body, before the thoughts, before the roles we play, there is the self. Not the ego self, not the personality, but the real self. The unchanging, pure awareness that watches the world through your eyes. That is your eyes, your breath, your heartbeat, the space behind the thoughts. Ramana didn't ask people to believe anything. He didn't offer rituals or dogmas. He simply invited them to ask, "Who am I?" It's a simple question, but not an easy one. Most people answer with their name, their job, their past. But those are just roles. What if all of that was taken away? What if your memory was wiped, your job gone, your face changed? Would you still be? Yes. Because before all of it, there is still a knowing, a presence. This is the same truth whispered across the ages by mystics, saints, and sages. Lao Tzu called it the Tao. Buddha called it nirvana. Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven within you. They were all pointing to the same silent truth, that before your story began, before you said me, this was already here. You can't see it with your eyes, you can't hear it with your ears, but you know it. Like you know you exist, even without proving it. Think of a candle in a dark room. The flame lights everything else, but it doesn't need to see itself to shine. That's what you are. The light, not the shadows that come and go, not the objects that appear in the room. You are the light before any of it. Ramana lived in simplicity. He didn't travel, he didn't build a temple or start a religion, but thousands came to sit with him. Why? Because in his stillness, they remembered something ancient, something they had forgotten long ago, maybe even before birth. They felt what it was like to just be, without effort, without fear, without a mask. So when we talk about before you were born, we're not trying to erase your life. We're not pretending you don't have a body or a past. We're pointing to something deeper. We're pointing to what was never born and what will never die. You've tasted it before, when you're lost in a sunset and time disappears. When you're with someone you love, there are no thoughts, just warmth. Or when you close your eyes at night and feel something vast and calm behind the chatter of your mind. That's it. That's what Ramana was pointing to. That's what you are. Not the name, not the past, not the mask. Who is watching this? The answer isn't a sentence, it's silence. Unmasking the ego. What are you really? And this knowledge can be conflicting because for most of us the ego feels like the very center of who we are. It's that ongoing stream of inner chatter that comments on everything. Your appearance in the mirror, your choices at work, how you compare to others. It's this quiet voice inside you that constantly says, I am this, I am that. I'm a good person. I'm a failure. I'm not enough. I'm better than them. It claims every thought, every feeling, every success, and every mistake. It wraps itself around your identity like a mask you forgot you were wearing. But here's the question, who's really behind that mask? It feels like you. It feels real. But when you start to observe it closely, something strange begins to happen. It starts to fall apart. Let's pause here for a moment. Close your eyes if you'd like, and bring to mind a simple phrase. I am me. Let it echo quietly in your awareness. Now ask yourself, does that phrase feel solid? Does it feel like the absolute truth? Or does it feel like just another thought floating across the sky of your awareness? That's the secret few people ever discover. The ego isn't a truth. It's just a thought. A thought repeated so often that we've started to believe it's who we are. But the real you isn't a thought. You are the space in which all thoughts appear and disappear. You are the awareness watching the thoughts say, "I am me." The ego is not your enemy, but it is a myth, a useful myth at times. Sure, it helps us navigate the world, play our roles, remember our names. But when we believe we are it, that's when we get stuck. That's when we feel separate, fearful, and never quite whole. Here's what many mystics and sages have said for centuries. The ego is a bundle of memories, opinions, roles, and fears. It's your past clinging to the present and your imagination projecting into the future. But it's not stable. It shifts. One day you feel confident, the next you feel lost. One moment you're the hero of your story, the next you're the victim. If the ego were truly who you are, wouldn't it be constant? But you've noticed this already, haven't you? Even as your thoughts, feelings, and self-image change, something stays. Something witnesses the change. That witness is not the ego. That witness is you. Ramana Maharshi called it the self. Not the small self wrapped in stories, but the deep self that is always here, untouched. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence. In Buddhism, it's the no-self, because when the ego drops away, what's left isn't a smaller identity. It's freedom. And here's where things become truly practical. You don't need to destroy the ego. You just need to see it for what it is. A thought claiming ownership over things it doesn't own. A narrator who's been pretending to be the whole movie. You can start noticing it right now. The next time you feel hurt or offended, pause and ask, who is feeling this? The next time you feel proud or ashamed, ask, who is being praised or judged? Don't look for an answer with your mind. Just watch. You'll notice that the emotion rises and falls, but there is something still behind it all, observing. That stillness is you. When you stop identifying with the ego, even for a moment, something incredible happens. You feel lighter, quieter. A kind of calm returns because you've stopped struggling to hold up a false identity. It's like waking up from a dream you didn't know you were in. And in that waking, you begin to realize something. You were never the roles you played. You were never your mistakes or your successes. You were never the voice that whispered fear or the mask that smiled to hide it. You are the silence beneath the noise, the presence behind the mask, the witness to the unfolding moment. The ego may still speak, but now. You don't have to believe it. Imagine just for a moment a life where you are no longer tied to the constant inner dialogue that says, I am this, I need that. What will they think of me? The voice that narrates your every move, judges your every step, and shapes your identity moment by moment. What would it feel like to live without that voice, always trying to define you, to explain you, to fix you? What would happen if, instead of constantly reinforcing the idea of a separate self, you simply let go of it? Not as an act of rebellion or escape, but as a gentle returning to what has always been here, underneath the noise, your natural, spacious, ever-present awareness. Living without a separate self may sound like a lofty spiritual concept, but it's much more grounded than we think. It doesn't mean you'll stop being you, or that you'll lose your sense of humor, your preferences, or your personality. It doesn't mean you'll abandon your job, your family, or the roles you play in the world. It means something much simpler, much quieter. You stop identifying so tightly with the idea of yourself. You stop mistaking the mask for the face, the thought for the thinker, the role for the being. You begin to see that there is life beyond the boundaries of me, and that this life flows not in opposition to you, but through you, as you, effortlessly. Let go of the inner critic. So much of our suffering begins with the belief that we are a fixed, separate self. We wake up every morning and step back into the costume. This is who I am. These are my goals. These are my fears. We hold on to our identity like it's a survival tool, constantly polishing and protecting it. We spend endless energy trying to maintain a version of ourselves we think will be accepted, loved, and respected. But have you ever stopped to ask, who is it that I am trying to protect? What is this self I'm always defending? When we investigate it honestly, the answer becomes startlingly clear. This self we work so hard to uphold is nothing more than a bundle of thoughts, a story, a narrative glued together with memories, beliefs, and inherited conditioning. It shifts depending on the mood, the circumstance, or the people around us. One moment we feel brave and capable, the next we feel small and lost. If this self were truly real, truly solid, it wouldn't change. But it does, all the time. And yet, even as the sense of self shifts, something deeper remains unchanged. The awareness behind it all, the you that notices the changing emotions, the shifting thoughts, the fleeting identities, that hasn't gone anywhere. That presence is what's real. It doesn't need to be improved or fixed. It's already whole. Now consider this. Even at this very moment, life is unfolding without you needing to do anything to make it happen. Your heart beats. Your breath moves in and out. Your eyes receive light. Your brain translates these words into meaning. You didn't have to command any of this into being. It just is. This is the mystery and the beauty of life beyond the self. When we let go of trying to control everything from the perspective of me, we begin to notice that everything is already being taken care of in a deeper, more natural way. Life doesn't need micromanagement. It knows how to flow. This doesn't mean you stop making choices or taking action. It simply means you stop tying your identity to the one who chooses. You recognize that thoughts and actions arise on their own. You see clearly that what you call you is just another appearance within awareness. You become like a river, still moving, still flowing, still participating in the dance of life, but without needing to carry the burden of an I directing every drop. And in this space of letting go, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to feel lighter. The anxiety that once came from needing to prove yourself begins to dissolve. The fears that were born from comparison and judgment start to lose their grip. The striving to be someone, to be enough, to be seen in a certain way, it all begins to fall away. And what's left is something you may not have felt since you were a child. Peace. Not a peace that comes from having everything figured out, but a peace that comes from realizing you don't need to. In this way, letting go of the separate self is not a loss, it's a liberation. You don't lose anything essential. You simply stop clinging to what was never real to begin with. The roles, the personas, the attachments, they begin to fade like fog lifting from a quiet field. And what you discover underneath isn't emptiness, it's freedom, spacious, loving, grounded freedom. This is what many mystics across time have pointed to in different words and symbols. It's what the Buddha meant when he spoke of no self, what Jesus hinted at when he said, "Lose your life and you will find it." What Lao Tzu whispered when he said, "When I let go of who I am, I become what I might be." These are not abstract riddles. They are invitations to remember the truth you've always known, that the self you've spent your life defending was never who you truly were. Living without a separate self doesn't mean detaching from life. It means stepping fully into it without the extra baggage. You still love, you still cry, you still care deeply, but you no longer take everything so personally. You're no longer a wave trying to fight the ocean. You realize you are the ocean. So let go, not as a forceful act, but as a gentle returning, like waking up from a dream and smiling at the illusion. Let the thoughts come and go. Let the identities rise and fall. Let the world do what it does. And know deep in your bones that the awareness you are was never bound by any of it. To reinforce this, let's take a look at one of the most eye-opening studies in psychology that connects with the idea of the false self. This is called the false consensus effect. The false consensus effect. In simple terms, this study showed that people tend to believe that others think the same way they do. If you believe something, you assume most people believe it too. If you like something, you assume others must also like it. If you judge yourself harshly, you assume others must be judging you just as harshly. But what does this have to do with living without a separate self? Well, this effect is rooted in one powerful thing: the ego's need to feel secure. It wants to feel like it belongs. It wants to believe it's normal, accepted, and in control. So when we think a certain way, the ego projects that onto the world. If I'm scared of failing, others must be watching and expecting me to fail too. If I feel unworthy, others must see me as unworthy. This creates a loop of fear, shame, and disconnection. The study behind this effect was done by psychologist Lee Ross in the 1970s. He asked participants to read a scenario and then choose how they would respond. After making their choice, they were asked to guess how many other people would pick the same response. Over and over again, people overestimated how many others agreed with them. They believed their opinions and actions were more common than they actually were. Why? Because the ego loves company. It wants to believe it's not alone. It wants to confirm its version of reality. But this isn't the truth. It's a projection. And when we're caught in this loop, we begin to live inside a world shaped not by reality, but by fear and assumption. We stop seeing people as they are, and instead, we see them as mirrors of our own insecurities. This is why understanding simple psychological patterns can be so freeing. It shows us how deeply we've been conditioned to believe in the separate self, how much we've relied on false assumptions, and how quickly we can fall into loops of fear just by believing a passing thought. Another powerful example comes from the Stanford Prison Experiment by Philip Zimbardo. In this study, college students were randomly assigned to be either prisoners or guards in a fake prison. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but it had to be stopped after just 6 days. Why? Because the students forgot they were just playing roles. The guards started abusing their power. The prisoners began feeling helpless and emotionally broken. Their sense of identity shifted based on the role they were playing. This study proves something deeply important. Your sense of self is fragile. It can be shaped by the environment, the people around you, and the roles you're asked to play. But if your identity can change so quickly under outside pressure, then maybe it was never as solid as you thought. Maybe the you that you cling to, the one who needs to be right, to be liked, to succeed, is just another mask. The good news? You don't have to keep wearing it. You can start to see that this idea of me is just one possible story among many. You can begin to relax into the awareness that watches all of it unfold. That's the part of you that never changes. Whether you're winning or failing, laughing or crying, that awareness is still here. It's calm, it's steady, it's not interested in playing a role. And that's where real freedom begins. You don't have to fix your thoughts or become the perfect version of yourself. You don't have to control how others see you. You don't have to keep up with the expectations you've carried for years. You only have to see through the illusion to realize that the story of you is just that, a story, one that can be rewritten or simply set down. As you let go of the need to defend a false self, you open the door to living with more ease, presence, and joy. You become less reactive, less fearful, and more connected, not just to others but to the flow of life itself. And perhaps, most beautifully, you begin to remember what it was like to simply be, before the stories, before the masks, before the world told you who to be. So breathe, let it all soften, let the thoughts come and go like waves crashing on the shore, and remember, you are not the wave, you are the ocean. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.